Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Welcome to Eat, Sleep, Podcast, Repeat, FM 99 and the Fox's first and only wrestling podcast. If you listen to FM 99, it has been the number one wrestling podcast on FM99.com for 3 years running. Suck it, everybody who's not us. It's also the only one, but don't pay attention to that part.
Hey, you know what? You spin it as any way you can. So
this is a show hosted by myself, Sean Hood, and Dave Taylor.
How's it going, everybody?
And each week we dive into the world of wrestling and discuss all the things that interest us, topics that you guys want us to talk about, which we'll be doing tonight. Actually, we're asked to review a show, so we'll be getting into that. And generally anything else. We try to get some interviews from time to time. We've spoken with people like Chris Jericho. We've spoken with Drew McIntyre. We've spoken with Big E, who's on a tear lately. Just recently, we actually had the opportunity to talk to somebody a little unexpected, a little outside of what we would have normally thought we were going to do. And we spoke with the gentleman who played, Chris Hollyfield, who played the Little Boogeyman and Little Booker T.
Yeah.
So we got to talk to him a little bit about his experience in the wrestling world and everything. So if you haven't heard that, by all means, go back and check last week's episode. And you can do that by going to FM99.com or 1069thefox.com, right under the media tab, ESPR. It'll link you to our feed so you can find our episodes. It's right under the media tab. But you can also search for us on all your major podcasting apps. Just search ESPR Wrestling. Go ahead and subscribe. Give us a 5-star rating and review. It helps us greatly. It is literally the most important thing you can do for us is to give us a 5-star rating and a review wherever you listen to us. And we always want you to keep in touch with us. Facebook.com/ESPR99, on the Twitter at ESPR99, or email us ESPR@FM99.com. And remember, when you're on social media, go ahead and turn on your notifications for us, because when we go live and do shows, interviews, whatever we're going to do, you will be notified. You can jump in. You can throw some comments and questions at us, which you can do right over in the bar over there, I think, and or below, depending on where you're watching this, in all reality. But throw some comments in. We'll get your questions and everything. We'll be happy to talk with you guys. But I guess now it's time to get the show going here. First and foremost, I guess, what do you have first up on the docket, Dave?
Well, do you want to kind of run through the week of wrestling, because it was
Do a bit.
Two things on Raw. I think we could probably touch on. One we're going to disagree on is the Raw Underground.
Yeah, we're going to disagree on that.
Shayna beating up 3 women. Okay, I think I will agree with one part, but the one part is you're finally showing that she's tough, and she beat up 3 women in the Raw Underground.
Yeah, great. Now show me she's tough and she can beat up the wrestlers.
Yeah,
it means nothing to me that she beat up 3 women on Raw Underground, especially with really badly choreographed MMA. Like it just wasn't like, and not to mention the fact that like she throws like I think 2 punches at a girl, and the girl rolls away like she's beat up, and that goes against everything we see her do in the ring, because they eat these punches all the time. It didn't work for me. If she'd done a little more like grounding and pounding and whatnot, and they pulled her off of her or something like that, that would have worked a little more for me. I just didn't care for the presentation. I appreciate the idea that we're trying to make it obvious that she's a badass. That this is her world, fighting, real fighting and everything. But it's not working for me. It's so corny looking.
I think they have to present her as some tough person, although she needs to be, not like she needs to pound the Sashas of the world or whatever, but somebody in the kind of like an Asuka first came out, or when Ronda Rousey first came out, it just kind of went through some of the lower card a little bit. She hasn't really, other than the Elimination Chamber, she's beat wrestlers, but
she came out of Elimination Chamber walking through everybody.
Yeah, anyway, this is great.
So they already had presented her as a badass. So it's not like they have to present her as a badass in this Raw Underground thing. I mean, I'm fine with them doing it. I just wish it was done better. I thought it was done more efficiently at the Elimination Chamber than it was in this setting. And I mean, back and forth here. Some of the stuff sometimes looks okay. It depends on what we're watching, who's doing what. I actually kind of liked when the previous week when the Hurt Business, when they showed up and we're laying into people, because that looked a little better.
And that's the one part I didn't like about it, because I felt like it was too much for the first week. Where because we're even on this. I mean, their role was completely different this week than it was last.
Everybody's on. Everybody's on there, Dave. It doesn't matter. I mean, you heard Shamey, man. Everybody's welcome.
I'll say
another thing. what's the point of the segment? Is this are we gearing up? I can't remember that guy's name, the big dude that they keep featuring on there.
I don't know. He looks great, but yeah.
Is this whole thing just to build him up, and then when he's ready, we're going to get rid of Raw Underground? Because okay, if that's the point, then at least there's a point, and maybe it'll work for him. But if there's a point beyond that, I need to know what it is, because I really don't get any purpose to Raw Underground existing so far. They haven't given any rationale for its existence.
No, the dancing girls were gone too.
Yeah, the dancing girls were gone, which I thought was, I mean, I didn't care
to be there.
The other week. Some people had a problem with them saying, oh, they're back to sexualizing women. While I agree you could have had some dudes dancing or whatever, just to even it out a little bit. Just as somebody who is in a relationship with somebody who performs burlesque and all this other stuff, women are perfectly capable of owning their sexuality without necessarily, without it being something that's being forced upon them or a negative. Like it's entirely possible to do. Like Mandy Rose's character is kind of built around that. So I feel like the flipping out over it was a little much, but whatever. People didn't like it. They took it off. Okay, at least they listened.
Yeah, I think Mandy Rose complained that they weren't there this week.
I think Liv Morgan was like, after the first week, she loved them. Yeah. And she talked about how, she's like, what's wrong with that? Like, women are allowed to dance and be sexy. Like, what's not okay with that? Like, because then in the same breath, you also have women like Shayna Baszler showing up on there and beating people up. Like, so it's not like we're saying that women are only there to dance and be sexy.
Yeah. I wonder, and I guess Shayna's doing her thing, but if this is a way that, and I don't like the timing's good at all, but like, until we get audiences back, and maybe that's how long we're going to have this, or maybe this is a way to try to get Ronda back. But I don't see Ronda coming back without crowds, because we know Brock's not coming back until we get crowds.
I can't see them wasting the money on Ronda without a crowd. You know what I mean? I just can't see that happening. I think we're stuck with who we're stuck with for the time being. I don't think we're going to get a lot of new people, big faces in the meantime.
No.
They talked about, like you said, Brock's not coming back without crowds. The SmackDown taping, they were supposed to tape 2 episodes of SmackDown this week, and they only did the one because apparently they have had more positive tests. And so apparently Vince is losing his S over that because he's angry about the fact that he has to keep rewriting things, which kills me because he rewrites things every week, whether there's a problem or not.
Yeah, we'll keep doing that. All right, one more thing on Raw I'd like to bring up, and okay. I thought this was a great segment. I thought this was the best thing I've seen on Raw in a long time, and that is the Ric Flair Randy Orton promo.
The Ric Flair Randy Orton promo was great. Now,
a lot of it was unscripted too.
Yeah, and it was good. It was really, really well done. I could have done without we're going to turn out the lights right when he does the punt. I get it. You don't want to do the punt to Rick and whatnot.
In protecting, I was fine with that because of the whole.
I wasn't, because we've been having technical glitches all night. Blah 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 blah. Oh, we just happened to have one right when see when things are too cute like that. I don't like it. That insults my intelligence, because it's very clear that okay, well, that's not what that was. You just didn't want to show it. I understand it, but my thing is, you don't have to punt the guy. Do something else. He's an old man. Lay him out with an RKO or something like that. You know what I
mean? But he's not taking bumps. We know that.
He can take a face bump. He can do a face bump. It's fine.
No, because even when he got the low blow, Randy helped him to the ground. I mean, Rick is 71 years old. He's not in Vince McMahon shape where he can get a headbutt or something.
I'm not sure. Vince, look, hold on. Vince blew out both quads getting in the ring. So let's not pretend like that, being in that amazing shape is going to protect you all the time. But, no, I get what you're saying. I feel like he could have taken a face bump. I think he would have probably been okay to do that. But that being said,
beat him up backstage like Batista.
What about the night? What was it? Where was it? Rated RKO beat him to a bloody pulp and dragged him out. Like, it could have been, something along those lines. It could have been something like where he jumps him and we don't see it. We just see the aftermath of it. You know what I mean?
But I think with
I don't want it to take away from the whole thing. I thought the segment was very, very well done. I thought they both played their roles beautifully.
Yes, I've seen reports that Flair was kind of bummed that he's written off of television, because I'm assuming if we even see him again, or it's going to be a few months. But I thought the promo was great. It was heartfelt, and him saying, "Yeah, I love being on Raw." Of course, you're not going to be on Raw for a while. So, but yeah, there was.
I get it. I sounded like I was really harping on it. It was a minor thing as far as the lighting and whatnot, but overall, I thought the segment was incredibly well done. So
Yeah.
I'm not. I don't mean to knock that at all. It was a great segment.
Which, yeah, coming from a Raw, that's big.
It was not great.
The rest of the show, no.
I will say that I have mixed feelings here in that I actually really liked the Seth Rollins, Dominic, Rey Mysterio thing because it made Seth and them seem really vicious. Where they assaulted Dominic and telling Rey like, oh, beg for your son, Bob. It seemed really, really vicious, and that's good. Yeah. But the one thing that bothered me is just last week, Samoa Joe was ready to throw down on these guys. You know what I mean? Yeah. But this week he sits at the broadcast table. He just sits there while it's all happening, and he's acknowledging that it's terrible, but he just sits there. And I'm like, the logic is missing there for me. So it really hurt me because I kept waiting for Joe to come get involved.
The continuity is just not there. Or like he needs to say, hey, I've been told I can't get involved.
Yes, that would have been fine. If he'd used that excuse, like I have been ordered to stay at this desk. I am not allowed to get physically involved in what is happening in that ring, blah, blah. And he could have even talked about how it was killing him having to watch this. That would have been a great way to make at least a logical reason for why he's not involved. Because I'm sitting there the whole time. The only thing I'm thinking is, why isn't Joe helping?
Unless maybe for the match in SummerSlam, maybe that's what it's going to lead to.
I don't know.
Yeah,
but again, I thought the whole segment was good, but then I was left asking that question there, and then at the end of it, he tried to be like, I think after the break or something, he tried to be like, oh well, I as much as I want to get involved, I know Dominic has this and blah 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 blah. No, that's weak. That's really weak logic. It doesn't work, dude. You're watching him get assaulted, with his dad looking on. It's like no.
Well, and how many guys are in the audience like not doing anything? The same thing with.
So yeah, exactly. You've got all these trainees around the ring, but I mean, they don't want to draw attention to that a lot of the time. I understand.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, between comments on the previous thing we talked about, so the lights flickered, so we couldn't see Randy not hit Flair in the head because he's old.
Yeah, that's 100% what happened. That's 100% what happened. The light flickered because we had to see Randy not hit Rick.
Yeah.
So, is what it is.
That's for Raw. I mean, AEW, you got the continuing.
We say that's it for Raw. You know what? No, we'll talk about this other thing later. There's another, because Dave has a whole new segment planned out.
Yes.
And trust me, there's something coming later I want to talk about in that new segment. So we'll get there.
So AEW, the heel turn tease. It's been going on for a while with Kenny. I mean, what
I can't even begin to care. They haven't made me care about Kenny yet, so I don't care that he's turning heel.
I would have and I know it's not a pay-per-view, so you're not going to have the big win on television with Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy, but it was competitive though.
It was competitive, but man, it was kind of sloppy. It was all of the guys. For some reason, all of the guys looked really tired. Like it didn't seem like everybody. It seemed like a lot of people were missing some energy, and I didn't know what that was about. I wanted to like it because I really like all four guys, and I'm a big fan of Jurassic Express as a team.
Yeah.
But I felt like something was missing, man. It was not clicking as far as like being a really good match. It was all right.
But the other tag match in the show, there's too much outside interference.
Is there too much outside interference?
There just needs to be a straight up tag match because there's just too much. It's either everybody's in the ring, or whoever's not in the match is getting involved. And it seems to be like this, like every week. It's almost like it's a crutch, and
it's just overbooked mess, is what it is. And it's so funny because all the times they say they don't want to be like WCW, but boy, some of these things remind me of WCW an awful lot.
Yeah.
There are I hate having to say this because I feel like I feel like a broken record. We don't hate AEW.
No,
I really enjoy a lot of stuff I see on their program. I enjoy a lot of the fun stuff they do. There is some fantastic wrestling on there.
I thought the Cody match was fun this week.
Oh, the Cody match with Scorpio Sky was really good.
Yeah.
It was a little shorter than I would have liked. It should have gone a little longer to really kind of drive home the near falls and this, that, and the other thing. But it was a good match. It was a really good match. And I love Scorpio Sky. He might be my favorite all-around guy in that company.
Yeah. And actually, we got an email pertaining to AEW too.
Okay.
And let's go to our inbox, which, by the way, you can always email us, espr@fm99.com.
Absolutely.
So, and this is a question from Sarah in Portland. After his promo on Wednesday, do you think MJF is the perfect guy to take the title off of Jon Moxley?
The perfect guy?
Well, I mean, he is, he's original heel. He's not a former WWE guy. And the promos the last couple of weeks, I'm talking about.
He's always a good promo machine. Do I think he's the perfect guy? This is a two-part answer. Yes and no. Because yes, I agree with Dave's point that like he's a heel that's a through and through heel. He's not a former WWE guy, so he doesn't have that rub on him. I mean, it went from Chris Jericho to Jon Moxley now, two former WWE guys.
Yeah.
But is it too soon for somebody like MJF who's still very young in his career? MJF is so good, but he desperately needs the crowd, because the best part of MJF's whole act is him being an a-hole and the crowd reacting to him. And that is the best part of his whole act. And without that, he's missing something. And I don't mean that him personally, like he can't fix that. It's the crowd not being there is not something he can fix. But he's missing that energy from the crowd that really drives home what an evil bastard he is.
But his promos are backstage. You had, and I thought it was a great segment last week with Jericho and Orange Cassidy.
Yeah.
With Cassidy, finally cutting this promo at the end, and you're just like, wow, like, okay, because people don't like the whole hands in the pocket thing and this laid back attitude, which, by the way, he's got more Matt Riddle in him than Matt Riddle has in Matt Riddle. I don't know about that. Well, I mean, with the personality, because like that was to me was Matt's attitude in NXT, and Matt had a nice promo about his feet and everything a couple of weeks ago, and but like I was like, okay, I'm not a huge George Cassidy fan yet, but I see why people like this guy.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. But again, there's certain guys who are suffering without the audience there.
Yeah,
and Orange Cassidy's one of them. MJF is another. Now, and again, everybody is suffering without an audience there. Everybody. But there are certain guys that I feel like it affects more, and MJF is one of them. Because, again, as much as Orange Cassidy's shtick plays off the crowd, being excited, loving him, just going ape for what he does, it's the exact the other side of the coin for MJF. The crowd's, they're booing the crap out of him. They hate him. I miss it so much. So, like, do you put the title on him? Maybe this is the time when you don't have to, you kind of have an out for the ratings and this, that, and the other thing with the way things are.
Yeah.
And you can take that chance. But then you kind of miss that moment where the crowd will react, and then that first AEW Dynamite where he walks out and he's the champion and it'd happen. He'd step in the ring and he would just be rained in boos.
Yeah.
And it would be amazing, but he'll miss that because the crowd won't be there. So do you put it on him now, or do you allow Jon Moxley to continue to carry the company through, hopefully, when they can get crowds back in the building? By the way, I've seen some independent shows recently that have been doing shows outside, football fields and different areas, and they've been allowing fans to come. But what they're doing is the fans bring their own chairs, right? And they sit away from each other. They have a little area that they sit in, and so they're surrounding the ring, but it's spread out away from each other, and they're watching and reacting. Now, granted, is it a perfect system? No, but I really like that because it gets real fans back in the venue. You know what I mean? In a safe way. Yeah. So I think that's something that could be considered.
Well, I know, like, there was reports of Vince looking at an alternative spot for SummerSlam, which obviously
they've confirmed where it's going to be now.
It is the Performance Center, right?
No, it's not the Performance Center.
Oh.
It's an arena in Florida. It's the hold on, I just saw this report. Let me pull it back up. All right. I will tell you exactly where it is. I talked over you a little bit. What are your thoughts on MJF being the perfect guy? I gave my thoughts, but we didn't get yours.
I think that's like there's a pecking order of who's like next in line. But I think if they're gonna pick a guy to be a champion, the next guy, it has to be a non-WWE guy. I think because there's a lot of criticism. You had was it Mike Chioda show up this week, which is great for him, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
You had Bischoff show up last week. Of course, Bischoff has a long history outside of WWE too. But every other week, it seems like here's Zach, the former Zack Ryder. Here's the former Revival. You got a guy that is fresh, that I think can grow an audience in a way of that. Look, I don't know who this guy is, but man, he's entertaining. I like watching him wrestle. I like watching him talk. I mean, we've been on this guy for like a year now, praising this guy. So I would see. I don't know when the timeline is because, like you said, we don't know when we're going to get live shows. But at some point, you got to make this happen, or unless you put him to the side. But you don't want to wait too long because then you get that Braun Strowman situation where you're like, well, you should have put the title on him when he was hot, and unless he jumped the gun and put on Orange Cassidy, which I think would be a complete mistake right now. So
yeah.
Did you find a location?
Yeah, the Amway Arena.
Okay, is that in Orlando?
Yeah,
I guess where the Magic would play. Okay.
Yeah. So it's definitely. I mean, that's a cool idea. They've already said no fans will be in attendance. So then I go back to why. I mean,
spend all the money.
Yeah, whatever. If they want to do it, I promise you it'll already feel a little better because it will be outside of the Performance Center, and we haven't seen that in so long, so it will feel a little different. But that being said, I'm not sure it's worth all the pain to get there. But whatever. We'll see in about a week and a half. We'll see.
Yeah. How about the big numbers?
The big numbers, AEW, man. Jericho, of course, being the first one to tout this. How could he not? 18 to 34. That's a key demographic for wrestling fans. And while Raw still beats AEW in the ratings, granted they're not on the same night, but people will point to that repeatedly. They'll talk about how Raw still does better than AEW. They're not even on the same level, blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, if we're going to use that as evidence that Raw outmatches AEW without them being on the same night, then the demographic performance also is key. Because on a separate night, which means that same demographic was available the other night, because they weren't having to choose between the two shows, they still tuned in bigger for AEW. AEW outdrew Raw, Monday Night Raw, in the 18 to 34 demographic. I think it was 0.29 to 0.22, which is a substantial difference, considering how Raw has been the flagship of wrestling for so long.
But their numbers have been down the last couple of weeks.
Everybody's numbers have been down.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, we can only use that excuse so far because everybody's numbers have been down. But it feels like AEW and NXT's numbers have stayed. They dropped, but they stayed. They've kind of reached a plateau, I feel like. Raw keeps continuing to drop. While the Raw rating may kind of hover up and down, it does what it does. The demographics change. It's never reliable. I really think WWE at some point needs to start hitting the panic button. Because they are losing their audience that they have. They're the audience that will tune in each week.
Yeah, I think they pressed it when they started Raw Underground.
You might not be right.
Got an email here from Adam. Do you think SummerSlam should be a 2-day event like WrestleMania?
God, please no.
I disagree. I think it should be because we don't need these 6-hour, 7-hour pay-per-views anymore.
Well, I don't think we're going to get it. Last time I checked, it's a 7-match card.
Okay.
Last time I checked, it was a 7-match card.
Because based on who's available.
When WrestleMania happened, you got to remember that was right when this all kicked off. So they already had 11 or 12 or whatever it was matches scheduled for WrestleMania and set up. So they had to find a way to do that. If they only have seven matches set up for SummerSlam, no, keep it as a 1-day event. There's no reason to drag it across 2 days just because.
If it's that few matches, yes, I agree. But if they have the opportunity, and obviously the way things are going right now, but I would like to see these bigger shows drawn out so we're not sitting there for 6 hours.
I agree with you. I don't want a 6-hour pay-per-view. But that being said, I don't feel like now is the time. I don't, with as weak as the product is right now and how uninterested a lot of people are, forcing them to watch across 2 nights is probably not the best plan.
Yeah.
So I would keep it to 1 night. If you're at 7 matches, stay at 7 matches and make it 1 night. So that's where I'm at on that.
All right. NXT, anything happened other than stuff blowing up in Keith Lee's face?
No, I mean, I'm fine with that because it kind of fits the whole thing with Karrion Kross of his demon kind of blah, blah, blah.
It's a great angle for what it is. I mean, that's the kind
They
of
didn't
stuff.
try to pitch it as magic either. They said something about Scarlett putting it in the thing when she handed it back to him. So like they're not trying to pitch it as magic that they have or something.
Yeah.
Which is good because I don't need that for Karrion Kross's character.
No.
But I think, man, let me tell you, it seems almost like Karrion Kross. Keith Lee might be a one and done with champion. He might get that win and then drop it right to Karrion Kross. He had his one title defense against Dominik Dijakovic.
Yeah.
But that may be the only one he gets. He may lose it at the first takeover he defends it at, which wouldn't surprise me. I can see Vince wanting him up on the main roster as soon as possible.
There could be that because I think he would be Monday nights.
Yeah,
he'd definitely be a Raw guy right now.
They need the star power, definitely.
Yeah.
So I could absolutely see that happening. So you say that, but I feel like he could also be a SmackDown guy. I think they need a little help over there too on the babyface side. You got Braun. Braun is your top babyface right now, Dave.
Yeah.
That's the state of SmackDown at the moment.
Yeah. Dan O'Brien's at home. Matt Riddle is somewhere.
He's shooting with King Corbin, so woo.
Yeah. Shorty G. Is Sheamus a good guy now? Is that like, man, you want to talk about cramming?
No, I can't keep up with that.
10 pounds of stuff in the 5-pound bag because they don't have the guys. So, they all I mean, like Sheamus and Corbin should have fought tonight. They should have pushed that for tonight.
Agreed.
Forward momentum. Nobody's going to stick around. They think like, oh, we're ever going to watch through the whole show. They don't promote. They do in some cases. I mean, I'm not saying completely they don't because they had Bayley and Asuka on Raw and then promoting the Battle Royal, which is tonight. So they do a case of some of that, but some of these things they set up and they run through it and the angle's over before I had a chance to figure out what was going on.
The story gets no better. And it needs that time for a lot of these things. So they can feel important. If we're rushing through all of it, then it doesn't feel important. It just feels rushed.
Yeah.
So I'm with you there.
All right, you ready for our new segment?
I am ready. Give me my new segment. I can't wait for it.
All right. So this is a new segment. It is called Either Or, where we got to choose between the two options here. I had a graphic.
You told me it was going to be F, Marry, Kill.
That's off the air. That's after.
Oh, okay. All right. Sorry.
Yeah. So here we go. So first one on the show. Here we go.
Yes.
Either or. Who has had the better title reign? Drew McIntyre or Braun Strowman?
Is this a question?
It's a question.
I'm going to go with either. It's Drew McIntyre.
Yeah. It's obviously Drew McIntyre.
Drew McIntyre all day, every day at this point. I mean, has it been perfect? No, but it has been miles better than Braun Strowman's.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, if you're watching along with us, feel free to chime in on this. Your either or. Who was it? Drew McIntyre, Braun Strowman. But yeah, Drew McIntyre by a mile.
Yeah. Drew and the feud with Randy Orton is a lot more interesting than what's been going on. Well, the Fiend thing, I know Alexa Bliss or whatever speaks tonight, but last week with Braun going, I'm not interested in Alexa Bliss or whatever.
Yeah, that was weird. That I didn't like that at all. It almost seemed like Braun was turning heel, and I'm like, okay. But he was also doing this weird, dumb voice that I just didn't have any interest in. I was like, what? Why is he trying to do a monster voice? Like, stop it.
Yeah, because I wasn't like, I heard it because I didn't have it out at the time. I was like, is Bray cutting a promo on this? And I realized,
I hear, I see, I don't like it. That's how it went.
Yeah. All right. Next one. Here we go.
Yeah.
Either or. Which Bella Kid will become a wrestler? Breeze or Nikki's?
Breeze.
Yeah, that's Daniel Bryan's kid.
It's Daniel Bryan's kid. That kid's going to become a wrestler.
That's your second one, by the way. I know it's. I think Nikki's first, but congratulations.
Yeah. They both had Bella. Absolutely, and they had the kids really close together. Wasn't it like with a week of each other or something?
A day apart.
Woo! Man, that is some planning.
Yeah, that is almost the same day. But I could see Daniel Bryan's kids in the future. And
I just don't see Nikki's kid having the same motivation. I just don't, because her dad's not a wrestler. No. Bree's kid, both parents were wrestlers, and one of them's still very active as far as in the company.
Yeah, and I think in Nikki's case, though, because that was the one that had the neck injury, right?
Yeah.
So it made more apt to like, well, you're not going to do that because I went through all these issues.
Well, by the same token, you could say the same thing about Daniel Bryan. Bryan with the neck injury, with the concussions, with the, you know what I mean? But
that's true.
It's going to depend on them as parents. Yeah. And I feel like Daniel, him being actively still involved in the company will be an influence on the kids.
Yeah. All right. I agree with you. All right. Next one. Here we go.
Either or. who will lose their championship first? Sasha Banks or Bayley?
Ooh, that's tough.
All right, I'll take this one. To me, it's gonna be Bayley. Bayley's gonna lose it first because she's gonna get mad that Sasha's the champion and she's not. And I think
I could absolutely see that happening. And
that's logic, which we don't always get. But
no, we don't always get that. But you know what? I could absolutely see it happen the way you laid out. It would make perfect sense for Bayley's character. So I was kind of torn on the two. I think you just sold me on Bayley.
All right. Who wins the Battle Royal tonight? I have between Naomi. If Rhea Ripley is healthy, I don't know where she's at.
She's on NXT.
But it's an all-brand Battle Royal.
This is a shot for whose title?
Bayley's
title.
So Naomi, Rhea, or I go with not Liv Morgan, Mandy Rose. So
okay, I could see that.
Unless they do Bianca Belair, but I think it's too early for that. But we say it's too early, but she's been more active the last couple of weeks.
I don't think it'll be Bianca Belair. Do we know who all is in the Battle Royal? I haven't seen it
yet. It's all the brands. So whoever's available.
They haven't announced official women being in
it? No, they just said all the women from Raw, SmackDown, and NXT in the Battle Royal.
Okay, fair enough. Then I think my pick would have to be Rhea Ripley. Or God dang it, Charlotte Flair will probably show back up and win it. Between
comments, Bayley, because Sasha never really gets a title, gets a hold of the title long anyway.
You're not wrong. If Sasha has to defend this thing at a pay-per-view, it's done. It's over.
Yeah.
So,
which is against Asuka at SummerSlam. So
yeah, so we'll see how that goes. Yeah. Okay. So I'm with you. I think Rhea Ripley, and for my dark horse, I'm picking Charlotte Flair to randomly show back up in the thing.
It could happen. All right, one more. Here we go. This is gonna be a fun one.
Either or. Who had the better debut, Nexus or Retribution?
Oh God! Watching that was making me angry. Without a doubt, Nexus. Retribution is such a horrible wannabe version of like the Nexus mixed with the Shield, and it's awful. It's awful. First of all, who the hell is in it? I can't tell. Like, they're not even in anything interesting looking. They're in the most like hobo looking clothes that they could find to make them look like a paramilitary like outsider. Or no, I guess rioters are supposed to look like rioters or something. But I mean, there's nothing about it. This Patrick 100%.
Yeah, Patrick. Yeah. Thanks, Patrick.
Patrick says Nexus for those of you listening on the podcast. There serves no purpose, first of all, for Retribution. Nexus, we got it. Those guys showed up. They destroyed everything. The next week, I think it was the next week. I don't remember. At some point, they explained their actions, and it was because they were getting, they got treated like crap,
Yeah. See, everybody commenting that it's Nexus too. It's Nexus. The one thing with Retribution is, if the payoff, which we know there's not going to be a payoff, but if there's a payoff, it better be the Russos of the world, or maybe some other guys they let go, which is probably not going to be that case.
No, it's going to be a few NXT guys, and realistically, who the hell could they have in that group? I was hoping that
sounds that quiet.
Dominic Dijakovic keeps like teasing that he's involved somehow, or like that he's coming up soon, and I keep waiting for that to happen. And somebody was like, "Oh, I bet he's in Retribution." And I'm like, "I bet he's not. They're all like 5'8".
Yeah.
There's nobody in there that's like 6'5".
And I swear, one of the girls that was in the segment at the end of SmackDown was like one of the girls I saw in the Underground, because they probably don't have the body.
Oh, without a doubt. So it's like I don't know that I don't know, and this is the God's honest truth. I don't know that WWE knows who's in Retribution yet.
Probably not.
By the way, a few months back, they trademarked stuff for some rebellious group named Justice. right? Which way better name than Retribution, which just sounds like another one of the UK pay-per-views.
But it might be a name that maybe because when they had the car flipped over, it kind of and this is not political in any way at all, but it just kind of reminded me of like some of the social unrest that's been going on in cities. You know, seeing the stuff outside, I'm like, is this really good timing to do this? You know,
I'm 100% sure that's what the point of it is. I think they are supposed to seem like rioters, like we've been seeing on the news. Protesters and rioters. I think that's the point, is to draw that correlation there. And again, for the record, we're not taking a political stance on anything on this show. Not happening.
Not at all.
So don't ask our opinion.
No.
This is the time where if you send us a question, we ain't answering it.
Yeah, we ain't answer. No, but this is a good question. Is the Retribution supposed to be like NWO or Degeneration X?
Neither. I don't think either. I think they're
those are cooler groups.
Those are much cooler groups. But NWO was there to take over, right?
Yeah.
DX was just there to do what they wanted and benefit themselves. Retribution seems like they're just kind of there to destroy, which is more like Nexus in that regard. And that Nexus was trying to destroy the established WWE hierarchy and everything.
Yeah.
The closest comparison you can make to any of them is the NWO in 2004. Is that what it was?
When Vince brought him back or whatever that was?
Yeah. When he's like, I'm going to inject a lethal dose into WWE and kill my creation. Like, poison, yeah, that's what it was. And the NWO, and first of all, I'm going to tell you right now, when that happened, I marked out huge when that happened because I was a gigantic NWO fan.
I thought it was ridiculous.
But... Oh, no, I loved it. You shut your mouth. Now it's ridiculous once they got there, but I still loved it. I really, they're not like either group. They're a wannabe version of Nexus, and it just bums me out because Nexus was, as poorly as Nexus was handled, very shortly into Nexus.
Yeah, 2 weeks
poorly
later.
as they were handled, already off into a worse foot because they don't feel important. There's no message. There's no.
Should be the fired guys. That's what I'm thinking. That's what Patrick says. If they're going to bring somebody back,
that would make sense to me. Some of the guys you let go, show back up, and do that. That would make perfect sense to me.
But we know it's not Heath Slater. It's not the Good Brothers.
Right.
The Ryder.
At first, I thought it was Undisputed Era. Before I realized there were girls out there.
Yeah.
And then it's like, because at first I thought it was Undisputed Era, and I was like, oh God, please don't start calling yourself Retribution now.
No, that'd be terrible.
That'd be horrible. And some people were teasing the idea that like Dominic Dijakovic and Tommaso Ciampa were supposed to be in this group. And I'm like, I mean, I'd be excited they're on the main roster, but I'd hate that this is how they got there.
Yeah.
Tommaso Ciampa does not need to show up like this. Like, nobody needs to show up like this. For God's sakes, put them in a giant egg and let them be hatched in Survivor Series. Hey,
by the way, speaking of Survivor Series,
oh God,
sorry, segue. 1991 Survivor Series. It was in Detroit. It was on Thanksgiving Eve. It was the greatest challenge. Hulk Hogan losing the title to The Undertaker. Ric Flair's interference. And you had that 6-day span before this Tuesday in Texas. And we had an email from a longtime listener of the show who requested we would review a show from that span.
We will, in the future, now that I'm thinking of this, we will have a little segue like thing like we have for all this other stuff that will be for reviews in the future.
Yes. But it just led into it and he said Survivor Series.
Oh, no, I get it. I get the segue. It was that chef's kiss. That was a great segue. But I was just thinking out loud about that. Yeah. If I say it out loud, then we'll actually remember.
Hey, we had, we stepped up our game with some graphics this week. So as soon as I can figure out how to do an animated GIF.
By the way, that was Dave's doing. And we'd like to thank Aaron for throwing the voice on that for us. Yeah. Appreciate it.
Expect more. We got more. We just don't want to put them all out there.
Which, by the way, a little shout out for Aaron. She recently interviewed the lead singer of Michael Starr of Steel Panther.
Yeah.
So if you want to go check that out, head on over to FM99's Facebook page and the YouTube and whatnot. And you can find it on there and check it out. It is a really fun interview.
Yeah.
So go check it out.
I give her credit because thanks to a snafu, she didn't know she was interviewing. So
yeah,
couldn't tell. She did great.
Yeah, she did a really, really good job. I was really impressed with that.
Yes. Yeah. So on the network, which by the way, I love going to the old school stuff because this was like my era growing up. I've been watching wrestling since like the mid '80s.
We should specify this just in case anybody else wants to go check this out. It was November 30th, 1991. Am I right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. I'm going to make sure I have the date right. Madison Square Garden, New York City. You can go check it out and watch it for yourself. See if you agree with us, disagree with us, whatever you think. Go ahead, Dave. Take it away.
All right. So we're gonna run through the cards. Some matches quicker than other because some I enjoyed and some, by the way, it was Vince McMahon with Bobby Heenan and Lord Alfred Hayes on commentary.
Lord Alfred Hayes. There's a voice you miss.
Usually it was usually Gorilla Monsoon and Heaton, or sometimes Gorilla and Lord Alfred Hayes, which was great because Alfred would like push the heels, but it was weird here. So crowd opener in the match, you had El Matador, Tito Santana taking on Kato, which was Paul Diamond, by the way, in the AWA days, or Max Moon at one time. For Curtain Jerker, I thought it was fine. It went 10 minutes to give people, a chance to get to their seats, which is usually what these matches were for.
I thought it started entertaining, like a good curtain jerker, but it slowed down after the first half of the match and then never picked back up.
That was the style. You get the headlock on 5 minutes in because,
Yeah, but man, not exciting. But again, if the point of the first match is to set the tone for the evening, the tone is get a pillow.
All right, so you don't like them. I mean, the ending was fine. El Matador wins, which is no surprise because I don't think Kato won a singles match in his
life. I don't think so either. He's an enhancement guy, really. I mean, he was not really focused on much. And I mean, Tito, come on.
Yeah. The next match, okay, this was like a downer because just of the style, but the Texas Tornado, Kerry Von Erich, taking on the Berserker, which was like a 2-minute count out, which was just, this was stupid.
I still, to this day, detest that they called Kerry Von Erich the Texas Tornado. I hate that name. I hate it so much. I'm going to say right now that I'm with Dave. This was stupid. And I'm also going to throw this out there as well. Kerry, not as great as I really want to remember he was. And I only thought this because once I saw this, I went back to watch a couple other Kerry things from the time. And I'm thinking to myself, man, unless he was wrestling somebody like Ric Flair or, something along those lines or Mr. Perfect or something like that, I really didn't love a lot of his work.
Well, it was a different style. You had a lot when he was in World Class. You had the whole claw thing.
Oh, right, but I'm fine with the claw.
WWE. Now, this was towards the end of his run.
Right, yeah.
WWE. So, it may not have been the most motivated.
Yeah.
Kerry Von Erich. Everybody had a nickname, so he couldn't just be Kerry Von Erich. You had to call him the Texas Tornado. The Berserker, which I always kind of loved this gimmick. It was a whole Bruiser Brody ripoff. But the style worked because you had a guy that just would throw people around and then him get, a 2-minute match in a house show. You're like, really? These guys must have had a hot date or something going on.
Yeah, I don't really know what it was.
Yeah. Next match, Virgil versus Skinner. Virgil was about 6 months into his single run, if you will.
Yeah.
He never really had a finisher. He had the punch, and he kind of did the dream for a while. Skinner was a guy that they never really did anything with.
Deservedly so.
Yeah, until he became this Doink the Clown number, not the second Doink the Clown, but he was the second Doink the Clown at WrestleMania 9, by the way.
Right.
That was him. Okay, now, if you never went to a house show in the 80s or 90s, the main event was always in the middle of the show.
Oh, yeah.
The reason was because the match would happen, something screwy would happen, and they would now announce a rematch. Oh, and tickets are on sale now, so go buy tickets during intermission. Which brings us to
the main event of the evening.
Yes, Hulk Hogan, former world champion, taking on Ric Flair. The crowd, by the way, I recommend going back to watch this. Hot. For a house show, Madison Square Garden. You could just feel this is kind of one of those like, man, I wish I was there. Like,
it's funny, as hot as the crowd was, they didn't draw a sellout.
No.
Madison Square Garden, not that big of a place, all things considered. I'm genuinely surprised. I think it was the first time. Was it the first time in WWF they'd faced off?
If it was not the first, it was maybe the second, because I know they had a match, I think, in LA.
Right.
Which I think is also on the network too. If I'm trying to remember, I seen it somewhere. I think the match was like slightly different.
Right.
But man, I mean, they threw a lot in 10 minutes. There was a lot going on in that match. It did not feel like a 10-minute match. It felt longer, but not like it felt like it dragged on. It just felt like you got a lot of action because the pacing was ridiculous on that match.
Right. They did throw a lot in. You're not wrong. Sorry, I was trying to check something on my computer real quick. They did throw a lot in, and I thought the match was very good. I thought Hogan Flair worked really, really well together.
Yeah, which is amazing that this was not the main event at WrestleMania 8. Talking about dropping the ball.
Yeah. But the one big issue I had was the ending. The ending was, and I know it's it's a house show. This is how we do it. It's the middle of the blah blah blah. But man, there's ways to do screwy finishes without it being unsatisfying.
Yeah,
was really unsatisfying.
So what was set it up? So you need perfect interfered. You gave brass knuckles to Flair. Flair punches out Hogan. Flair pins Hogan, which everybody's like, oh my god, and I'm thinking like, because I forgot about like what they did.
Of course, yeah.
And I saw this, and then like in no other time does this ever happen except for when it involves Hogan.
Yeah,
comes down and explodes.
Oh yeah, Tony Gurria comes out.
Yeah,
and he tells the ref what happened. You can see the trunks and you can see the brass knucks in the back of Flair's trunks, and so of course that isn't allowed to stand. And it turns into he reverses the decision at that point.
A DQ win for Hogan.
Yeah, which not satisfying. Just a really not sad, like for the match. The issue I have is the match itself was really good, and then that ending sucks all the wind out of it, man. I was like, oh, that was so disappointing a finish. It's like, matches, what it was. You just had this exact same reaction to something within the last couple of months. Can't remember what it was, but it was on some pay-per-view, and you talked about how good the match was, and then we got that finish. I don't remember. God, I wish I could remember what it was now.
Probably a Bray Wyatt match or something.
Maybe, I don't know. But again,
like, that's the ending. Yeah.
Again, the action was really good. The crowd was hot.
Yeah.
I would recommend watching the match. Just be prepared for the ending to not make you happy.
Yeah, I will say that it's really interesting is that Lord Alfred Hayes is completely quiet during the match. I don't know if he went to the concession stand or what. Maybe it's what he was there. But like, it was Vince, it was Bobby. And it's classic commentary. Oh, my monitor went out. Something happened. It's just great stuff. They go to intermission, they come back, and then your post intermission match is Hacksaw Jim Duggan and the Barbarian. Which
come down match.
Yeah, come down match. Yes.
Barbarian could pretty much only punch and kick, and Duggan couldn't do anything.
No.
This was sad to watch. In all honesty, it was just not good. Because you like to think of Duggan from his earlier years.
Yeah,
dude was a beast, and you think of the Barbarian. That dude was a monster. And boy, this was just unimpressive from both of them. And the Barbarian, I'd like to point this out. Barbarian, I've met him personally. I got to give him a knife edge chop in the middle of a wrestling match, which was fantastic, by the way. He comes up to me. It's at an independent show. He's wrestling with some of the other guys there who, at this point, I apologize to the men on the card. I can't remember who he was wrestling at the time. But he's in the crowd. He's yelling at people and stuff because they're booing the Barbarian. He's the bad guy. And he runs over and he gets in my face. And he knew that I knew some of the people there. So I guess he figured I was a plant or something. But I wasn't. I was just watching the show. And he grabs me by my shirt and lifts me out of my chair. And he's like, blah, blah, blah. He's yelling at me, just, you want a piece of me, blah, blah. And I'm, of course, saying no. Because his age is still a huge, thick, massive tree trunk of a person.
Yeah.
Right? And I've heard the stories about Barbarian. I'm not, no. And the guy he's wrestling comes up behind him and grabs his arms from behind and pulls him behind his back. And he says, get him. And he tells me to chop him. And I went, okay. Threw a chop at the Barbarian. And you know what? The Barbarian sold my chop like it was like he got hit by a truck. And I'm like, yes, that's right. The Barbarian sold for me. So, wow. Yes.
That's awesome. I have a Barbarian story too.
A really fun story.
A Barbarian to Virgil story. This is not a one-upping, but since we're here. January 1994. It's an independent show in January. One of the best independent shows I've ever seen. The card. The main event is Virgil and the Barbarian taking on Greg Valentine and Kevin Sullivan.
Right.
And the Honky Tonk Man was supposed to be on this card, but he no-showed for whatever reason. I brought an acoustic guitar with me.
Oh, Lord.
And I was hoping that Honky would sign it. So I'm in the front row, and we'll have to share this video. But Kevin Sullivan grabs my guitar and smashes it in the back of Virgil. So my acoustic, it's a garbage guitar.
Oh, no, not a gimmicked guitar. Oh, no.
But he grabbed my guitar and smashed it over the back of Virgil. So,
by the way, has there been a less physically imposing person than Kevin Sullivan in wrestling? He's all a 5 foot nothing, and he kind of looks like he's an extra out of Lord of the Rings. And
it's the booking.
Oh, it's the booking. Well, he was the booker man for a lot of time.
Exactly.
But he was also a very good character. I'll give him.
He was. He's sadistic, and it worked.
I just mean physically, he didn't seem imposing. That's all.
No. It was, but it's the storytelling. That's what worked with.
Oh yeah, but if there's one thing that we all know, you don't have to be the biggest guy in the world to be scary.
Yeah.
I mean, look at a guy like there were dudes that I never would have wanted to cross ever. Guys like Chris Benoit, and I'm just mean that from the stance that he was a bad dude.
Yeah.
Perry Saturn. Never would have wanted to cross that. Former Army Ranger, not the tallest guy in the world, but he could have ripped me in half. You know, I mean, just there's dudes like that you don't want to mess with. But yeah. So
I met women. Speaking of Ben Long, unfortunately, but Sullivan was a woman was at that show too.
Oh wow,
because she was married to Sullivan at the time. So
these stories we just told you were better than this match.
Yeah, they were. The next match was for the Intercontinental title, Bret Hart defending against the Mountie, with the Big Boss Man coming out the beginning to steal the cattle prod, if you will. This match went longer than they thought, but it is a Bret Hart match. But you're going to get your slow stuff because the Mountie is entertaining. I'm doing this with quotations.
I was going to say, is that really what he's doing, Dave? Is that entertaining?
Can drag the match down a little bit, but Bret Hart's Bret Hart.
Bret Hart can wrestle a broom. You're going to at least think it was good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's the case here. It was good. I was a little surprised he didn't put him away with that elbow from the middle rope.
Yeah, but that's always been his setup move to.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's always been his setup, not a pin. So that's why I was like, oh, it's over. Okay, all right, sure, all right.
Yeah. And then which leads us to we're in our shyster, the Big Boss Man, and.
So naturally, who has to come out?
The Mountie.
The Mountie, of course, because he has to pay Boss Man back for what just happened.
Yeah, I always thought Irwin was a great wrestler, but I thought his matches just dragged on in this era. And me watching a lot of wrestling in that era, it's like, good Lord, like, come on, man, like it worked better as a tag wrestler with DiBiase than he did as a single star. I don't know what it was, but it just always seemed that way.
Right. It was okay. I mean, I really don't have much to say about it beyond that. I've never been a big IRS fan. I did like Boss Man. I thought he was kind of an underrated worker for a lot of his career.
Yeah, I don't think he got enough credit for things.
No, and I mean through all of his career, he was good when he was Ray Traylor. He was good when he was Big Boss Man as like when he was a good guy. He was good when he was Big Boss Man was a bad guy. He was just I enjoyed Big Boss Man's work.
Yeah.
So,
and then the last match, which always. Weird is that, because it wasn't the main event because the main event already happened. The Nasty Boys.
The not so main event of the evening.
Yeah.
Nasty Boys versus the Rockers. Man, even at this point, the Nasty Boys were boring.
Did they have good matches? I
honest to God, can't think of a single time in my life I saw a good Nasty Boys match.
There's two matches of theirs I liked. WrestleMania 7. Against the Hart Foundation, but I think it's because who they faced.
Yeah,
and the booking of that was phenomenal with the timing. There's a part, and this is not often I watch WrestleMania 7, where they're chasing one of the Nasty Boys out of the ring, and the other one's got him in a headlock in the ring, and they do the spot where he does the crisscross, and then the Nasty Boys collide. Like good stuff there.
Right.
The match against Legion of Doom at SummerSlam '91 was terrible. The other match I think was against the Head Shrinkers on Raw, where they fought into the concession stand. That was it.
I think no, I'm confusing it with somebody else. Never mind. I was going to say something else.
But that was it. I can't think of good Nasty Boy matches.
I really can't either.
Even in WCW, like I knew of them. Like, the whole pit stop thing. Yeah.
The Rockers here dragged them kicking and screaming to a passable match. It wasn't great. It was all right, you know.
And this was towards the end too, with the
Rockers,
with the Rockers getting ready to split up because with the whole you really screwed up thing.
Yeah, the main purpose of this match was clearly to sell that the Rockers were not on the same page.
Yeah,
and they succeeded with that. So as far as storytelling, 100% succeeded with what they were going for.
Yeah. Talk about consistency because on the house shows because they did that there, and leading up to it, Survivor Series and a couple other spots, and and this got himself up. Between it says isn't what's his name?
Spoiler alert! That Shawn Michaels turns into a bad guy.
Marty Jannetty tried to jump through that barbershop window.
Yeah, sure, that's what happened.
Isn't what's his name? His dad? Yes, Mike Rotundo, IRS is Bray Wyatt and Bo Dallas' dad. So.
Yes, that is what's his name's dad.
Just Joe. Hey, remember Just Joe? Yeah, Just Joe. Yeah.
Wow, I forgot about that. All right.
The attitude there was so great. Yeah, Just Joe.
Oh, great.
I got one more email we didn't get to. Put this in here. We barely even talked what we're going to do with the show. We've done a good job. Okay. This one was from Jonathan, Virginia Beach. Do you think that Randy Orton will break Ric Flair's record of title reigns?
What's Randy Orton at now?
Is it 12?
I don't know.
The Flair promo that came in while we're talking about Flair and Orton. So at some point, somebody's got to break Flair's record, but it's going to probably be Charlotte.
I was going to say, but I bet it's Charlotte.
It's going to be Charlotte.
Let's see.
Yeah. By the way, the house show. We're digressing a little bit.
Is 13 times.
13 times. And Flair's what? 16 times or whatever.
Is it? Geez,
17. They don't count all of them because of.
They really don't, and honestly, they should. But
yeah, because at some point, somebody needs to go. I thought it was going to be Cena. I thought it was going to be Triple H for a while.
He's recognized as a 16-time world champion.
Okay.
So he's 13 times now?
Yeah.
Probably not. But everybody always thinks it's going to be somebody. Everybody thought it was going to be Triple H for a while. Then everybody thought it was going to be John Cena. Now everybody thinks it's going to, is it going to be Randy Orton? I don't think it's going to be Orton. I don't think Orton has 3 more title reigns in him unless they do really quick title reigns.
Yeah, do some short ones. Because I'm trying to think of other guys that, that would be around. I mean, Brock's not going to get there. Brock's just going to have the long reigns if he gets a championship again.
I mean, realistically, if you're looking at a guy on the main roster who stands a chance of breaking it now, it's Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
Maybe Seth Rollins. That's possible, depending on how long he's around.
Yeah. I think on the men's side, it's those two. On the women's side, it's definitely
Charlotte is 100%, on the path to being that person.
Yeah, because there's no that or Sasha. But
Sasha took that year and or so off, and she wasn't doing much world titling right around the time before that. Yeah. So I'm not so sure that she's in that same ballpark. She'd have to play a lot of catch up because Charlotte is. What is Charlotte at already? Charlotte,
I think 9 or 10 because they're counting the NXT reign as the.
Do they count that one?
I think so. Yeah. Poor Rhea Ripley. Yes.
I love that. I type in how many times has Charlotte Flair, and the first thing that comes up is been married.
0, but engaged to Andrade. Boy, they're dragging that thing out in a weird way.
I don't know. They're going to do the same thing they did with Sasha and Bayley. It's going to take 3 years. Flair is an 8-time women's world champion in WWE.
Okay, but not counting the 2 NXT reigns, like they mentioned when they talked about it.
So she's a record-tying 4-time Raw Women's Champion and a record 3-time SmackDown Women's Champion.
Wow.
So
yeah, I don't think Becky getting there.
She's already at 8. She's only been there for how many years now?
Like 3 or 4 years.
Only been there for 3 or 4 years. So if she's there for another 3 or 4 years, she can match her dad.
It might be a little bit longer than that, but when she came there briefly, that when she had that one match in Raw against Natalya for whatever reason.
Yeah, the one matches don't really mean much to me. Your official debut is what matters to me.
Yeah. All right. So Team Bad or whatever it was. All right. Now what was it? Team.
It was PCB, right?
Or something PCB. Like that. Yeah.
She debuted 2016. Yeah, so 4 years ago.
Yeah. There you go.
19th.
Yeah.
So really, really close to 4 years Accurate.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're starting to run out of time. We got about a minute to go.
Oh, yeah, we got to go. All right. So
next week.
SummerSlam preview next week, so make sure you tune in for that. We'll be discussing SummerSlam. If you got any questions, comments, concerns, as always, send them to us. Facebook.com/ESPR99, on the Twitter at ESPR99, or right there, email us at ESPR@FM99.com. And of course, make sure you find us on all your podcasting apps. Search ESPR Wrestling. Give us a 5-star rating and a review. It is the most important thing you can do for us. Please, please, please do that, because it is a big, big help. But that's it for this week. Again, next week, SummerSlam preview. You got any thoughts? We want to hear them. ESPR@FM99.com. Until that time, remember to eat, sleep, podcast, and
repeat. Good night, everybody. Thanks for watching.